Locker Room, with all the sports news you need, live.
Good evening. I hope you've had a lovely Saturday. It is Locker Room Special. My name is AMD, and tonight I am flying very solo tonight. All my pals have left me. Don't know why that is. I thought I was liked as well. But yeah, I'm going to look at the Scottish Cup final from this afternoon, where Celtic claimed a record 8th treble by defeating Championship side Inverness Caley by 3-1 at Hampden Park. The goals coming from Diogo, his 34th goal of the season. Leela Abada had Celtic 2-0 up. Dan Mackay got one back for Inverness, and Jota wrapped up the scoring to make it another treble for Celtic. Now, I will get on to certain points about the game very shortly, and Ange Postecoglou as well. First thing I would have to say is I actually have to apologise for yesterday. We had every intention of doing a locker room show yesterday. Fortunately, for anyone that was looking for a locker room show yesterday, circumstances kind of took over, and I wasn't able to put one out. I had a lot of things to talk about yesterday. We had an Inverness fan coming on the show, but unfortunately, circumstances kind of dictated that just didn't happen. So I apologise to anyone that was looking for a show yesterday and didn't get one. But I am here for the next hour. I may actually, after I've done this review, talk about a couple of things I was going to talk about yesterday, because I'm on my own, so I can do what I want, really. Nobody's going to stop me. But yeah, in terms of today, it was very much a case of Celtic were very heavy favourites. They were very heavy favourites to win today. Very heavy favourites to win their treble as well. And I think I've said for weeks they would win the treble as well. Inverness hadn't played since the 5th of May. They finished 6th in the Championship. Probably a disappointing season for Billy Dawes overall. They couldn't finish a bit higher and maybe get into the playoff. But this, for me, was a free hit for Inverness. They weren't expected to win. I think probably a lot of folk, maybe myself included actually, and wrongly, probably thought this would be a kind of procession for Celtic. It didn't end up that way. Inverness did very well. They put a lot into the game. I thought they were excellent for large parts in the game today. The team news when it came in, Celtic started. The big thing for Celtic was there was no Carter Vickers, but the big thing for Celtic was that their talisman Kyogo was playing and he was fit. So Celtic lined up with Joe Hart and goal, Johnston, Starfelt, Iwata and Taylor, McGregor, Hatate, O'Reilly, Jota, Maeda and the main man Kyogo. On the bench for Celtic, the substitute goalkeeper wasn't Scott Bain, probably after a few mistakes recently. It was Benji Siegrist. They had Haksabanovic, Abada, Turnbull, O, Bernabe, Forrest, Ralston and Welsh. For Inverness and Mark Richardson goals. Then it was Wallace Duffy, Cameron Harper, Sean Welsh and Robbie Devine, David Carson, Billy Mackay, Scott Allardyce, Jay Henderson and Nathan Shaw. On the bench, they had the sub-goalkeeper Cameron Mackay. They had Aaron Doran, McGregor, Hyde, Dan Mackay, Delaney, Samuels, Wood and Boyd. And I thought, the start of the game, I actually thought I was going to write in a lot of notes for this game. I didn't actually take my first note to the 18th minute. I thought probably the one thing that Billy Dawes would have said to his team was don't concede early. Because if you concede early in a cup final to the Celtic side, you're probably going to get hammered. And I think he's probably going to think, take this in stages, get through the first 10 minutes unscathed, then get through the next 10 minutes unscathed. And to be fair, they did that for a lot of that game. Obviously, Celtic controlled possession. I think one of the big things about today, and it was a massive, massive talking point, was the fact the game was kicking off at 5:30. Now, traditionally, the Scottish Cup finals are 3 o'clock, and I think that's the way it always should be. And I actually put in our group chat earlier on this afternoon, the build-up for the Scottish Cup final, in recent years, you've seen our builds where they start at like a couple of hours early. They go through the previous rounds, showing goals in the previous rounds. They have talked to fans outside the stadium. They talk to different people, like different players of bygone days and stuff. Now it was a half-hour build-up. It doesn't feel the same for me as a Scottish Cup final used to do. That's what I've always enjoyed over the years. Scottish Cup finals, for me, even if Hearts aren't in it, they are a big build-up. They are a big, big occasion. I don't know if the half-5 kick was something to do with that. It didn't really feel like a Scottish Cup final to me. But to be fair, it was a really good atmosphere. Celtic fans obviously out in numbers. Inverness came down as well in their droves as well. They made it a really good atmosphere. I had the radio on before the game, and they were actually doing that. They were talking to fans outside the game, and it was actually nice to hear as well. And they did a little bit with John Robertson as well about the 98 Cup final, what it meant to him. So the radio actually coverage was better than the TV coverage, I'm going to be honest. But yeah, I mean, Celtic for me, I thought they were very slack to start with, but I think you've got to give credit to Inverness. I thought Inverness were excellent. They got through that first 10 minutes pretty much unscathed. I should expect Celtic dominated possession, as they would have. Celtic have got, they've just got so much quality in that team. You look at that midfield, McGregor, Hitachi, O'Reilly. O'Reilly would play a part in the first goal, obviously, but they've just got such a massive experience and they're a great midfield. But to be fair to Inverness, I thought they were excellent. I thought Sean Welsh and Scott Allardyce in midfield coped really well. They got in their faces, didn't let Celtic get time on the ball. Defensively, they were very, very resolute. They were defending deep, which you'd expect. And actually, I think Reagan put in the group chat, and I think he was right as well. Or it might have been another group chat I was watching, because I'm on that many group chats, I've got no idea. But the one thing that Inverness didn't have was that pace on the counter-attack. So if you do get the ball and you play it forward, Billy Mackay, as good as he is, he's not the quickest. Now, we can hold it up, but he's not the quickest. He can't get in behind. So I think Inverness didn't really have a game plan of putting the ball over the top and letting, turning Celtic, because they had no pace in behind. But I thought they coped very well. Celtic, for me, weren't at their fluid best. Now, I don't know if a lot of that might have to do with the speculation about Postecoglou, which we'll get onto shortly. Were the Celtic players, did they know there was something happening, that he was going to be leaving? It's hard to tell. But they just didn't start the game as well as I thought they would. They were very, obviously, dominant in possession, but they didn't really create a lot of chances. Mark Richardson, the Inverness goal, we've been delighted that he didn't have a lot to do in that first 45 minutes, to be honest, apart from put the ball in the net once. But the only chance really of note, 18th minute, it was Matt O'Reilly in at the box. He has a kind of volley over the bar, well wide. But that was pretty much it into that game. It was very, I thought for large parts in the first, very scrappy. Celtic dominant possession, didn't really create what they would the ball. They weren't cutting Inverness open. Inverness were 4-2-3. But like I said, the one thing they didn't have was that pace going forward. Put the ball up and, and stuff. They didn't really have that option. Yeah, Inverness, I think Billadoz are in how they defend. You'd have hoped to get to half time. As I said, if you look at the stages, you'd have hoped to get to half time at 0-0. You got through the first minutes, got through the first 20 minutes, got 30 minutes 0-0. Defending very well, not really testing Joe very much. Again, I kind of expected them to. They were probably going to be looking for set pieces. That might be their only chance to really create anything, but they didn't really get many chances to do that either. And then the opening goal does come. Now, there's a lot of games this season that Kyogo hasn't been involved, but he comes alive in the box. He's like a jack in the box. He just seems to know where the ball's going to go. And his movement is, and I've spoken about this before on the show, his movement is incredible. His willingness to get across a defender, sense where the ball's going to go. And that's what happened. Really good play from Matt O'Reilly at the edge of the box, drills the ball across, and there's Kyogo getting across his marker. Brilliant pass. Ridges has got no chance to save it. And it's goal number 34 for Kyogo, who has, he's been sensational for Celtic. There's no doubt about that. He's been incredible. I don't think when he came, a bit like Postecoglou, a bit like most of the things that he's made, I don't think many people knew much about guys like Kyogo, guys like Lotta, guys like Maeda, guys like Matt O'Reilly. But they have been very good, and Kyogo has been sensational for Celtic. He's just got that knack of being in the right place at the right time. And as I say, his movement is sensational. That's what, if you're teaching a young laddie how it goals, you're looking at guys like Kyogo. That's the movement you want to do across that front post. Always sense where the ball's going to go, know where the danger's going to be. And he did that. It was a really good finish. And from that point on, you're thinking, right, this is done now. Celtic will score 4 or 5. Game will be dead. But to be fair, Inverness didn't lie down. They didn't particularly create anything, but they didn't fall apart, which is what you might have expected. They've not won the Scottish Cup since 2015 under John Hughes when they beat Falkirk, James Vincent's goal. And there wasn't any real pressure on them. If we're being honest, there wasn't any real pressure on Inverness. They could go out and enjoy the day. Yes, they wanted to win, but you're up against a team that, the match was there. They don't stop. And they didn't. They had another chance just after that, 3 minutes after the goal, actually. Hatate with a great ball. Again, it's Kyogo, gets on the edge of the box. Decent curling attempt, but it's wide of Ridger's post. And at that point, it was 1-0 to Celtic at half-time. As I say, I thought the first half was very scrappy. There wasn't really a lot in the game. Inverness, as I say, were defending very well. Celtic weren't quite as... I mean, they were dominant, but they weren't quite as effective as they normally are. You know, I watched them against Aberdeen last week, and they were great. They were back to the kind of form you'd expect, and you think Inverness could be a very, really tough game here. But Celtic weren't fluid. They weren't at their fluid best. They weren't passing the ball quickly. They weren't really getting them behind. But again, you've got to credit Inverness. Inverness came with a game plan. They stuck to it. Now, you're wondering at that point, 1-0 down at half-time, what do they do? Do they come out and have a go? Because they've not back and, again, try and get a set piece. They had a couple in the second half, they didn't most of. But Celtic came out second half, made a change at half-time. They took off Maeda, who looked like he was struggling. They brought on a Abada, who would have a massive impact on the game. Again, the next chance really didn't fall till later on. Kyogo does go off after 57 minutes. They bring on O, who again, I actually think has done very well at Celtic for the games that he's played. He looks a real handful. I think when he came in, a lot of folk thought he might be taking the Giakoumakis role. I actually think O looks a better all-round player than Giakoumakis. His link-up play, his hold-up play. He's obviously got an eye for goal like Giakoumakis did, but I think O does offer something a bit different, and Postecoglou would know that. He's watched this guy play. He knows all about him. But he came on. He had maybe didn't have a massive impact in the game, but Kyogo going off, 34 goals for the season. It is incredible. I've got no doubt that he will do maybe even better next season. But again, I'll get on to Postecoglou because if Postecoglou, maybe Kyogo, we'll get onto that shortly. But in terms of the chances, the second goal does come after 64 minutes. And it's Leela Abada and his player. And actually, James had put this in the group chat. Well, our colleague James, there were 2 fouls in the build-up to this. And to be fair to the referee, he could have blown up for either of them, but he didn't. He let Celtic carry on. The ball goes out to Jota, who plays it into Callum McGregor, who lays the ball across, and there's Leela Abada to finish from close range. The goal is checked, as pretty much most goals are, with VAR. It took a while, but he was onside. It was on Jota, obviously, but he was onside. Great play again from Callum McGregor, who still never lost a cup final, which is mental, to be honest. I mean, again, if you're looking at players that just what you Callum McGregor that, I think McGregor has been, again, one of Celtic's best players for a long time. He's the captain, he's a leader, he leads by example, and again, he doesn't stop. He's in the box, 64 minutes, he's in the box creating a chance. McGregor's just a fantastic player, and hopefully this month, Scotland have got 2 big games against Norway and Georgia. Hopefully McGregor can do the same thing in those games that they did today. Because again, he's just imperious. He's just a fantastic player. Probably, again, I'm not a Celtic fan, but a lot of Celtic fans might have thought, can McGregor make the step to captain since Scott Brown's gone? I don't think there's any doubt he's done that. He's been fantastic for Celtic as a captain and leader. And he showed that as well. But the second goal comes at that point, you are then thinking, the floodgates could open. 5 minutes to go, the floodgates could open here. But again, I've got to give credit to Inverness. I thought they defended well. They didn't let the heads go down where they could have done and could have got absolutely hammered. But they kept Celtic kind of at arm's length. And you're thinking, if they can just get one chance, if they can get one goal back and make it interesting. They had a couple of set pieces in the second half, which they really wasted. Balls into the box. They were trying to see what they were doing. They were overloading the back post, but the delivery was really poor. Straight into Joe Hart's hands twice. And I think if you're Billy Dodds, you're disappointed about that, because that might have been the only chance you were going to get with some set pieces to really test Celtic. And they really wasted that, to be honest. There were more substitutions from the game, obviously. Celtic made a couple, Inverness made a couple to try and get back. Sorry, I was just checking something there. I was just trying to check if I could see any comments from Postecoglou and Billy Dodds. I've actually got a comment from Postecoglou, which we'll do that in a second. But yeah, there wasn't really a lot else, to be honest, in the game after that. It was all pretty much Celtic again, dominating possession, not really creating a lot of chances. probably thinking I expected to be busier. It wasn't actually as busy as I thought it would be. Celtic had a lot of possession, which they're expecting to do. They're against a championship side. But what we all thought, and actually, again, James put in the group chat that he could see this coming, I genuinely couldn't. But Inverness did get a goal back. Came on the 83rd minute. It's a wonderful cross from Wallace Duffy from the right-hand side. It's a great ball in. Dan Mackay gets in front of Iwata, and it's a brilliant header. Bullet header past Joe Hart. The only thing he's had to do all game. And it's a brilliant header. And at that moment, there was still 7 minutes to go plus injury time, which we ended up being 6 minutes. You are then wondering, can Inverness get back in this? Can they do the unlikely and actually pull this back and take the extra time? Again, Celtic then started to dominate the ball again. Inverness couldn't really get out. They couldn't get hold of the ball and really create anything. They took off Billy Mackay on in the game. They put on Samuels, who is quick, but they couldn't get him in behind. They couldn't really ball through him to have any real effect. 10 the clock. Brilliant save from Mark Ridgers from a Haksabanovic shot. Again, Callum McGregor with the eye the needle pass. Great ball through Haksabanovic shot. Good save from Ridgers. And then the game is pretty much wrapped up on 90 minutes. The board goes up for 6 minutes. And you're thinking, can Inverness just get one chance? Can they get one effort? Well, they couldn't. And then 90 minutes on the job, who will BC. I can understand why he got it. Was he the best player in the park? I'm not entirely sure. But I can understand why he got it. And the reason the game actually was fair, because it was the one player in the Celtic team that tried to make things happen all the time. He's a guy that gets in the ball, who tries to excite the fans. That's the kind of guy that I watch him. I was brought up with Hearts, John Coon, Alan Johnson and stuff, who were entertainers. And that's what I like, and Jota does do that. He gets you on the edge of your seat. And it says goal. Abada, who scored second, made third. It's a wonderful cross again for the right-hand side. Callum McGregor, I think, gets the ball through. Really, the ball looks going right. It's a cross from Abada. Jota takes it down at the back post, puts it at the back of the net, and at that point, you know that Celtic have won the treble. I don't really think it was ever in doubt during the game, if I'm going to be honest. I know Inverness got back in the game at 2-1, but I still always thought Celtic would win the game and probably score again, which they did, because they are relentless. That's why they won the treble. That's why they won the league and cup. And at that point, the game is done and dusted. Haksabanovic was a shot in 94 minutes. Again, a pass from James Forrest. Again, probably good to see that James Forrest got a chance. He's not had a lot of chances at Celtic. Had a long injury. Whether James Forrest will be somebody that stays at the end of the season, we don't know. Where could he go? Would he want to stay in Scotland? He's obviously not going to Rangers, but could he be a signing for like Aberdeen, for example, or somewhere like that? I don't know. He might fancy a new challenge. But again, the final whistle goes. Celtic win the game by 3-1. But I'm going to keep on repeating this because I think it has to be said. Inverness, I thought, were excellent. I thought they were a credit to the Highlands. They could have easily went down, 4 or 5-0, for example, but they didn't. They stuck with it. They had their game plan. Billy Dawes will be absolutely delighted with how they played. Maybe disappointed they didn't really maybe create enough, but it is very difficult. I'm just going to try and get some comments up here. So Ange Postecoglou said, "I'm very proud. It's been an extraordinary season by the boys. We caught people by surprise last year. It's always hard defending things. The challenge was, can we be better this year and push on? We've won the trophy that eluded us last year, so it feels great. It's the last day of the season. It's an occasion, and it was nice to finish it off that way." Billy Dodds, I was always going to have a goal, but we lost goals at bad times. I'm so proud of the boys. They gave me everything. Talks are ongoing on a new contract, and we hope to get things tied up, so we'll see what happens over the next few days. I love working with these players, and you can see the team spirit we have. But we'll go back to Postecoglou in a second, but I think that's fair. He always wanted to have a goal. You're in a cup final, and my mantra is, if you're in a cup final, it's a one-off game, so you may as well have a goal. This is the one thing that I was very critical of Hearts last season, because against Rangers, they just put a European final. They were pretty much out on the lash after that game. They didn't have a lot of time to prepare, and we didn't do enough. We didn't turn up against Rangers, and that's a big regret for me. I would rather lose a final having a goal than sitting back and just accepting that's mantra anyway. I didn't know you were doing a show tonight. To try and do like special shows. We're going to do another one tomorrow. Actually, we'll be on tomorrow doing a show on Ross County against Partick Thistle, like the Premiership playoff. Obviously, Partick Thistle. We want to do a show after the cup final as well. Got other special shows to come up, which I'll actually mention just now. So next Friday, which is the special, but it won't be myself or Michael or Reagan or Dave that'll be on. This is about women in sport. So Maureen McGonigal is going to be the host of that. A few different folk. So it's all about women in sport. That is on between 5 and 6. The 16th, I think it is, a week after that, we're going to be doing another special show. And this is about mental health, because it is a massive, massive thing, mental health. Everyone goes through things in their life. People might be going through things now. I obviously have a Hearts WhatsApp group that's got 250 folk in it, which is crazy. And, we don't just talk about Hearts in that chat. We talk about a lot of things. We talk about, we'll talk about the cup final today, for example. We talk about how folk are getting on in their life. If anyone's got any issues that they've got, we are always there to help each other. And that's the way it should be. Mental health is a massive, massive subject. So we're going to be talking about that. I think I am hosting it. We're going to have somebody from a mental health charity called Sam H on it. So that, again, will be another interesting one. And again, we also, I'm talking about specials, we also have, I was going to say a specials from there, but I'm not going to do that. We also have other special shows coming on because Scotland have 2 games this month. On the 17th, which is a Saturday, Norway plays Scotland. We will be on after that game. And then on the 20th of June, we are playing Georgia at Hampden. So again, we'll be on after that. And then hopefully after that, we'll be taking a break because I'm not going to lie, I'm knackered. So yeah, we'll be doing quite a few special shows, but we wanted to do one today because it is the Scottish Cup final. Celtic against Inverness. Again, I will keep repeating the fact that Billy Dodds has done a really good job at Inverness. He'd be disappointed that he didn't finish higher in the league and at least challenge for a playoff place. They did finish 6th. And I suppose if you look at it as well, Inverness got to this final having actually lost against Queen's Park in the previous round. But obviously Queen's Park got kicked out because they played an ineligible player, Ewan Henderson, ironically, Hearts player. So they got kicked out and Inverness went in. So Inverness have actually done very well to get to this. They were brilliant against Livingston. They were fantastic. And they deserve to be there. Paul Donald wasn't cup, but as an Aberdeen lad in the group stage of Europe, Hearts is qualifying now, and Hibs are in Europe. Caley Thistles have a lot of credit for how they played today. Yeah, they've actually noticed Dave Comack's been quite vocal on Twitter today about the whole Hearts thing. I didn't know that was a rivalry. But you know what? I've said this before as well, and I know Paul's here, but Aberdeen deserve to finish third. I've got no bitter towards that. Hearts weren't good enough. We had that run after the World Cup where we had a really good run. I don't think we actually played well in a lot of those games, but it fell apart and it was their own fault. And Aberdeen reacted very well. They did the right thing. They got rid of Jim Goodwin, who was failing. They brought in Barry Robson, who has done magnificent. If you look at those 3 games, Darvel getting beat by Hearts 5-0, getting beat by Hibs 6-0, they could have fallen apart, and it looked like they had. But Barry Robson done a great job. So Aberdeen deserve to finish third. I can't sit here and deny that and be bitter about it because I'm not that kind of person. But yeah, you're right. Aberdeen enter the group stage of football, which is going to be, it's going to be fantastic for Aberdeen. They'll get about £5 million from that. I'm kind of glad Hearts don't have another 3 or 4 qualifying rounds. We've only got 2, which is better, and we don't start till August. Had things not gone our way, we could have been, had we finished 5th, for example, we could have been starting in July, which is not great. So yeah, Hibs are in Europe, Hearts in Europe, Hibs in Europe. This is the other thing, though, in terms of Celtic as well. This isn't just a Celtic, this is everybody. This is Celtic, Rangers, Hearts, Hibs, Aberdeen. We need to be better in European football. Now, I know that it's very difficult because you're up against better teams, but we've got to be better in European football. We've got to get that coefficient up. A lot of people outside of Scotland call the Scottish League tin pot, and I can understand that because only 2 teams win the league. But we've got to do better in European football. And this is anyone who enters European football. Dundee United got hammered by Alkmaar. Motherwell got beat by Sligo Rovers. It's not good enough. We've got to be better. A lot of the teams that we play against, especially earlier rounds. I remember years and years ago when Gretna were still Gretna, they played Derry City at Fir Park and got beat 5-1. Things like that just can't happen. When we're playing teams that we should be beating, we've got to be beating them. The same as for Hearts as well. We got beat by a Maltese side, Barcacara, a few years ago, which was embarrassing. So we've got to be better in Scotland at European football. And again, Celtic and Rangers this season, they did have difficult groups. Rangers were pretty poor in those games, getting beat 7-1 by Liverpool. They didn't do very well. Celtic, I did think at least competed. I thought they did well, especially against Real Madrid in that home game. First half 0-0, they actually competed very well as you take their chances. But we've got to be better and get the coefficient up. But in terms of today, I think Billy Dawes has done a really good job at Inverness, taking over from John Robertson, who obviously had problems. But I think for Inverness next season, I'll be about trying to go that a little bit higher. Can they come up? They're going to have potentially, that we don't know this yet because the game's not been played yet, but at the moment, Partick Thistle 2-0 up against Ross County. If Partick finish the job tomorrow, there will be a Highland derby next season in the Championship between Inverness and Ross County. So I think Inverness, they can be happy what they did today because I thought they were excellent. To a man, I thought they were all fantastic. Mark Richards didn't have a lot to do, but Wallace Duffy, Cameron Harper, Sean Wells, Robbie Dees, Danny Devine, David Carson, Billy Mackay, Scott Allardyce, Henderson, Nathan Shaw. The starting 11 can be proud of themselves. The subs that came on, they did a job as well. They could have easily folded. As I say, they could have easily got beat 5, 6, 7 today, and it wouldn't have been a shock. Let's be honest, they're playing against Celtic. But they didn't do that. They didn't fall apart. And I think if you're an Inverness fan tonight, you've got to be proud of the team, proud of the performance. You can be really pleased at the occasion today. That's the thing as well. When you go into cup finals, especially as a lower league team, you've got to play the game and not the occasion. And I think Billy Dawes might have been a bit concerned that they might play the occasion, but they didn't. They didn't do that. They were excellent. Inverness fans, I'm going to say, I applaud you because I thought you were great today. So if Billy Dawes does get a new contract in Inverness, I think he deserves it. I'm going to be honest. When Billy Dawes got the job, I wasn't sure. He had a lot of experience. As a player, yes. As a manager, no. But he's done a great job. He really has done a fantastic job. And you can see that Inverness players like him. They're playing for him. So I think if Billy Dawes gets that, a new contract, whether it's another 2 years or another 3 years, he deserves it. But Inverness, take my hat off to you. You were excellent today. You didn't get hammered. You were very, very impressive. You've done not just a high, I think you've done the Championship proud as well. I think if you're a Championship side looking at that, you've got to be saying, you know what, that's impressive. Taking on the might of Celtic, and they've not been humiliated. They competed very well right in the game. Once they got back to Dan Mackay, 7 minutes to go, they're right in the game, but they just couldn't quite manage to get there. But I suppose the big story, as it always is Celtic. They have won another treble. They're 8th. It's actually the 8th since the League Cup came into play in 1946-1947 season. And there's no doubt that Celtic have deserved it. They have been the dominant team for a long, long time now. They have the mantra since Postecoglou came in that they don't stop. I mean, since Postecoglou came in 2021, I think a lot of folk, again, myself included, because I'm not going to be biased in this, were very sceptical, thinking, who is this guy? What's he going to do? But he has done a remarkable job. Now, I know he's at a massive club like Celtic. They've got the infrastructure, they've got the fan base, they've got the money. Is it that difficult to manage Celtic? Well, certain Celtic managers made it difficult. It was quite funny because I don't know if anyone else watched this yesterday on BBC Scotland channel, but there was a story. They did a documentary kind of thing for half an hour about Inverness beating Celtic, and that headline, the famous one, Super Caley go ballistic, Celtic are atrocious. And it was weird because you're watching like Kenny Dalglish and John Barnes coming at Celtic, and you're just thinking, Kenny Dalglish back at Celtic, that could be fantastic, inspired. But John Barnes didn't work, and it was under him that they lost that game, and the whole Mark Viduka situation when he refused to come out for the second half. So, you probably can go to Celtic and you can fail, although I don't think you should with the money they've got. But Postecoglou's now won 5 out of the 6 trophies available to him. You can clearly see that he loves the Celtic fans. He loves the Celtic players. The Celtic players are all playing for him. Obviously, he lost his first game at Tynecastle when John Souttar scored that goal in the last few minutes. But he's won a treble. They have done fantastic this season. They have not very often let the standard slip. I know they lost 2-0 to St Mirren earlier on in the season. They've not really let the standard slip that often. And I think the one thing that Celtic do, and it's something that I would love Hearts to do this. I really would. And I've said this numerous times. It's the press. It's the willingness when you don't have the ball to win it back. Celtic don't have the ball. It's like they want the ball. They're like a dog when they're chasing the ball. They go after it. They want to get that ball back quickly. And that's what Celtic do. That's what teams like Liverpool, Man City do. That's what I'd like Hearts to get to that level. Really watch the football play times, the players they've got. As I say, you're looking at guys like Jota, Abad, Diogo, Eder, who obviously taken a knock in the first half and taking out the second half. But, it is a great man to have. Paul Donaldson was like, Partick, this was kind of match of the night. Partick looked very impressive, and I think they will probably get the result they need tomorrow. We'll be sorry if Ross County go down because Dingwall's a fantastic away day. And would recommend anyone who hasn't been there to go out for a match. I've not been to Dingwall, but I have been to Caley. Actually, I quite like the Caley Stadium. It's quite a nice wee ground. You can look over and see the water on the other side. It's a really nice wee ground. I've not been to Dingwall, though. But yeah, I think, to be fair, though, if Partick do come up, which I think they will, Firehill's a really good away day. I've been there a few times. It's a really good away day, and I think there'll be a credit to the Premier League if they come up. But again, I keep going back to this point that I genuinely think that the SFA they didn't expand the league and make an 18-team league when they could have done it under COVID. It was unprecedented. They didn't do it. I would like to see that, but they didn't do it. But in terms of Celtic, now, Ange Postecoglou has won everything. At Celtic, he's won all the trophies, 5 out of 6, as I said. But over the last week or so, there has been a lot of speculation linking him with Tottenham Hotspur since Antonio Conte got sacked. At the moment, Ryan Mason temporary charge. But over the last couple of days, that has kind of intensified. There was a lot of reports in London that Spurs were looking to make Postecoglou new manager. Now, obviously, Postecoglou has played that down in his press conferences. He's going to do. And there's been a lot of Celtic fans on certain phone-in shows and stuff worried that he might leave. Now, again, I'm not a body language expert. I was trying to look at after the game and see, is that saying that he's going? He was hugging every single person that he could find. I don't know if that's just emotional that they've won a treble, or if that is do you know what, I am going to leave. But it's quite funny because I mentioned it earlier on. Hold on, I totally agree on league expansion, Graham. I mean, it should have happened a long time ago. And this isn't a Hearts bias here because we went down, we got demoted. Partick Thistle, they were done out of it as well. I just think the SFA should have expanded the league a long time ago. And they should have done it when COVID came in. It was unprecedented. They should have expanded the league then, but they didn't. They decided, no, what we'll do is we'll let teams vote and we'll take it from there. Well, every team's going to vote for their own agenda. That's just the way it works. They were never going to vote for it. What should have happened is Neil Doncaster, not that he would because he's spineless, but what they should have done is say, right, this is unprecedented. What we're going to do is we're going to make the decision, we're going to expand the league. That's what they should have done, but they didn't. They let teams vote for their own selfishness, and that for me is wrong. But it sums up the SFA and the SPL. I mean, when you've got your own chief executive, Ian Maxwell, coming out and saying that VAR will be horrendous for the first few months, what do you expect? Let's be honest. They couldn't run in a brewery. But yeah, I mean, in terms of Celtic, I do find it quite funny that, as I mentioned earlier on, the fact that people in England, and not just England, there's abroad as well, think that the Scottish League's a tin-pot league. Yet here we are. Leicester City came in and took Brendan Rodgers from Celtic. You've got Steven Gerrard, who obviously was at Rangers, went to Aston Villa. You've got, I know he wasn't in the Premier League in Scotland, but you've got David Moyes, manager, man in English Premiership. Sir Alex Ferguson, speaking from Aberdeen, went to Man United. And now you've got Tottenham, who are looking at Postecoglou. maybe the Scottish League isn't as tin pot as folk think it is, because they're quite happy to take the managers and take the players as well. So maybe it's not as tin pot as we think it is. But I think the big thing I'll say about Postecoglou is, as I mentioned earlier on, it's clear that he loves Celtic. It's clear that his family loves Celtic. The fans love Ange Postecoglou. There's a giant tifo at the game today. I saw a banner being held up saying, "Ange, please stay. We loved you," for example. I just think, though, that maybe in the next few days, or I don't know, tomorrow, Monday, whenever the dust settles after this cup final, I do wonder if Tottenham will come in for him. Now, I follow a lot of journalists on Twitter. There's some that I trust, some that I don't trust. One of them, who I actually do trust, has said that it looks like Tottenham might make their move this week. Now, the lure of the Premiership might be too much for Postecoglou to turn that down, because it's a massive, massive league. He'd be testing himself against Pep Guardiola, Jurgen Klopp, Ed Hag, Mick Arteta. Is that something he could turn down? I genuinely don't know. It could be a massive, massive thing. But I know that, I listen to a lot of talks, a lot of phone shows and stuff, and they were basically saying that a lot of Celtic fans were saying, look, even if he goes, it's not going to tarnish his legacy. It was different under Brendan Rodgers, because Brendan Rodgers basically just upped and left. I think Postecoglou's probably got more of a living with the Celtic fans than Brendan Rodgers ever did, to be honest. Even though Brendan Rodgers' side did an unthinkable, they won, 69 domestic matches unbeaten. They won a treble there as well. That Brendan Rodgers era, that side was phenomenal. I think this side, I don't know if there's any Celtic fans on this chat, but is this a better Celtic side than that team that won that treble under Brendan Rodgers? I don't know. They have some great players in that team, don't get me wrong, but is that a better side? But in terms of Postecoglou, I just think if Tottenham come calling, first of all, obviously they've got to get permission to talk to them. Would Celtic do that? Obviously, it's coming from me. I want the chance to talk to them, but I don't know have got to say if they give permission to talk to him. If they do, if Celtic do give him permission, I think he's gone. Because I just think the lure of the Premiership is too much. The money that you could get from there, as I mentioned there a minute ago, the fact that he's going to be taking on the best. Man City have just won the FA Cup today. They're on for a treble if they beat Inter Milan in the Champions League next week, which they will. Erling Haaland has scored 52 goals. If he goes to Tottenham, he's going to be working with guys like Harry Kane and Son, two fantastic players. Now, whether Harry Kane stays, I don't know. Would he want to go and win something? Postecoglou, if he goes to Tottenham, Postecoglou's shown himself to be a very good manager, especially, and I talk about this a lot. When you go to any club, the biggest thing is recruitment. You've got to recruit well, and he's done that. I can't think of very many that have gone to Celtic under Postecoglou and failed, and he's made players better as well. Look at Greg Taylor. Look at Anthony Ralston. He's made them better. So Postecoglou would probably do that at Tottenham if he gets time, and he'll get a lot more money as well at Tottenham than he would have at Celtic. Or will Postecoglou stay at Celtic? There's not much else he can win now. He's won everything. He's won a treble. But something else that I mentioned on one of the group chats as well is the one thing that I think Postecoglou might want to do if he does stay at Celtic, and I mentioned that a wee while ago, is to do better in Europe. They'll be in the Champions League again. Will do better and maybe get Celtic at the group stage. Again, into the drop. Tottenham are not in the Champions League. So would they want to stay at Celtic to try and get more of an opportunity to take Celtic further? That's the only thing that I think might persuade them. Because Tottenham aren't in the Champions League. Tottenham they're a big club in England, but they've not won anything for a long, long time. They've got a fantastic stadium. The Tottenham Stadium is magnificent. I know that our colleague Reagan has been there quite a few times as a Tottenham fan, and I'm sure that Reagan, if Celtic do lose into Tottenham, he'll be delighted anyway because he's a Tottenham fan. So yeah, I just think that the lure of the Premiership when it comes calling is so difficult to turn that down, and you might. I'm trying to think of Postecoglou here. I'm trying to get in his head, which is dangerous, but I'm trying to wait up and think, if he goes to Tottenham, he's going to be taking on, as I said, taking on Man City, Liverpool, maybe not so much Chelsea because they've been really poor, but they've got Pochettino now, Arsenal, Man United. Would he want to test himself there? Would he want to give the opportunity to maybe get Tottenham in the Champions League? The money that he would get as well would be phenomenal going to the English Premiership. But on the flip side of that is he's developed a really good relationship with clearly the Celtic board, the Celtic fans, the Celtic players. I'd assume that he will strengthen again in the summer if he stays. There's a lot to weigh up. But I do just think that when the English Premiership comes calling, if you take it, you might regret it because you might not get another chance. If he decides to stay at Celtic, let's be honest, for example, right? He's not going to get the Man City job. He won't get the Liverpool job. He won't get the Arsenal job. He won't get the Man United job. He won't get the Arsenal job. This is probably the most prestigious club he'll get in the Premiership because I genuinely don't think that Postecoglou would want to manage, and I'm not being disrespectful here, at the bottom teams in the Premier League, but would they really want to manage a team like, well, teams that have come up, for example, like Sheffield United, for example? Would he want to manage an Everton? I don't think so. I think he'd have higher aspirations than that. And Tottenham are a big club. So there is that case of, if he doesn't go, will he regret it? But time will tell because, the season has now officially ended for Celtic. They've won the treble. He'll probably go away for a few days and think about, everything that's happened. He's probably getting emotional tonight thinking about what he's done, what he's achieved. 5 trophies out of 6 is fantastic for Celtic. But I think I am expecting that Tottenham will come in for Postecoglou. And will that be too much? Will it be too much for Postecoglou to turn that down? It's going to be interesting to see what happens. But, it's been... I think if I was going to review the season just now, I think in terms of the whole season, it's been decent. I've put in quite a few decent games. Celtic have run away with the league as expected. Postecoglou's done a great job. Kyogo, 34 goals this season. Celtic have dominated the Premier. Celtic have dominated again. And I think they'll dominate for another couple of years as well. I think Rangers are still, for me, not where they need to be. Signings will be interesting. I know that Rangers have signed Kieran Dowell from Norwich a few weeks ago. But they're going to have to sign more quality for me to even get close to Celtic, because they're nowhere near close to Celtic right now. I think Aberdeen, no doubt about that, they will. I think what I was saying about Aberdeen, they started off okay, horrendous spell, but then they managed to come back and managed to clinch third place. Unfortunately for me as a Hearts fan, there's been a lot of really good games, fantastic games actually, that I've actually quite enjoyed watching. I think for me, Hearts have been disappointing, and I can say that as a Hearts fan. I think we've been disappointing. I thought it's been up and down. The sacking of Robin Nielsen was right. Bringing Stephen Naismith, I think he's done okay for 7 games, but this is one of the things I was going to talk about yesterday. So there has been a lot of talk this last week or so that Naismith, when he gets back from holiday, will be given the Hearts job. I've been very split on this because I think in the 7 games he's had, he's only won 2 games, but there has been clear signs of improvement. He has done well. The games at home against Ross County, 6-1, brilliant. Aberdeen, 2-1, thought, oh, fantastic. The first half against Celtic before the sending off, I thought, oh, brilliant. And the Hibs game, when we go 1-0 up through Oda's goal, I'm thinking, we'll win this game now. But we go down to 10 men through Cochrane sending off. We then concede the free kick and think, now we're going to finish 5th. We did not fight and desire to get back in the game. So, Smith done from experience there, I think he will get the job. We've been linked with a Spanish coach called Marty Cifuentes, who likes to play a pressing game, which I think, again, that would be great to see. I'd love to see us doing that, but I think it will be Stephen Naismith, but it's been very frustrating for me this season. That's what there's about Hearts. I think one of the biggest frustrations for me this season as a Scottish football fan, and I think a lot of folk would agree with this, has been VAR and how it's been used. I think it's been horrendous. Now, again, VAR for me, and this is me as well. I'm not going to lie. I have probably said, like a few folk, get VAR in the bin, but it's not really VAR's fault. That's the technology. It's the referees that are using it. And still, after all this time, the only referee that's gone to the monitor not changing is Willie Collum when he didn't send off Ryan Jack at Ibrox for a really poor challenge. He went to the monitor, stuck with his decision, the only man that's still done that. I think VAR has been used really poorly this season. There's been so many bad decisions. There's been so many decisions that have got overturned after the game, for example. You look at Tony Watt, for example. He got sent off. That decision then got reversed. Recently, Peter Haring got sent off against St Mirren. It was never a sending off. That got reversed. There's been far too many poor decisions. And again, this is the thing that annoys me as well. You're going to cost teams points. You're going to cost teams a chance of, staying up. You could cost teams titles, cost teams top six. You can't get these decisions wrong when you've got technology there. The on-field referee, if he makes a mistake, then you've got the VAR. And if they get it wrong, well, that's their fault. Paul Donaldson, the problem with VAR is it's been used so inconsistently. That's the problem. It's been a massive problem. Too many for me, and again, I don't want to be critical, but for me, too many referees just don't understand the laws of the game, which is ridiculous because they should know the laws of the game by now. But again, one of the biggest things for me this season, and it's been a bugbear of mine all season, is the handball rule. No one seems to know what the handball rule is now. What's a penalty and what's not a penalty. Now, again, I could go back to the start of the season where my team Hearts should have lost a penalty against Celtic when Michael Smith handled the ball clearly, and that wasn't given. I was as shocked as anyone that wasn't given. But there's been so many like that this season that some have been given, some haven't been given. I just think it's been ridiculous how they've used it this season. Too many referees don't understand the laws of the game. And too many referees as well, for me, and I've said this before, are refereeing by VAR. They're not making decisions on the pitch because they think, well, if I get this wrong, VAR will sort it out. And that's not what it's there for. Though I actually quite like listening to, I can't remember the name of the podcast, but it's got Des Roach on it and Steve Conroy, two ex-referees. They're very impressive actually on that. They cover the games, and a lot of the time they don't agree with the referee and VAR, which is nice to see, as opposed to you got Dermot Gallagher who just agrees with the referee all the time, and then you got a BT Sport and you got Peter Walton. What's the point in him, by the way? Did he come out the Waltons, by the way? Because honestly, he's useless. So I just think, seriously, something's got to be done next season. They've got to be better. I would like, and this won't happen, but I would like it before the start of the season, after the holidays, every referee and the refereeing fraternity get in a wee room and say, we're going to sort this out. We're going to sort the handball rule out. We're going to sort the offside rule out. Because again, you're drawing these ridiculous little lines with crayon to see if somebody's told offside. Again, that's not what it's there for either. I'd like to see referees brought in and be told how to use it properly. And again, I'll go back to saying this as well because I said this before. I would also like to see ex-player in that VAR room because they've played the game. They'll have more of an idea of what is a set red card and what's not. Again, you go back to the Graham Shinnie incident. Sent off against Ross County. At the time, the referee didn't give a free kick for that. He didn't even book the guy, Shinnie. It then goes to VAR and it's a red card. Aberdeen appeal it. I get why he appealed it, but I think it was wrong anyway because I do think it was a red card anyway. I thought it was a late challenge, but then for Aberdeen to then get that, for Aberdeen to get another game ban on the top of that and it called a frivolous decision, it's just ridiculous. Aberdeen appealed it because I thought it was wrong, but it's just ridiculous how they're using it. Paul, again, in England, it took a couple of years for things to settle down after VAR was brought in. I'll still give it the benefit of the doubt, but it does have to improve 100%. That's the thing for me that has to improve most next season is VAR and how they use it, because I just think it's getting used really poorly. And again, something else that bugs me as well. I find a lot of this tonight because I'm on my own. I find a lot of these things to get annoyed at tonight. I'll blame Michael for this for letting me loose on my own. But one of the biggest things for me is the fact it takes too long as well. It shouldn't be taken. If you're taking more than a minute to decide something, then it's not clear and obvious. I think you could go after that. They need to bring in goaling technology in conjunction with VAR Was shocked to find out they don't have that. Don't get me started on the whole Shinny red card and appeal. Yeah, I mean, I thought they actually did have goalie technology. They've got that little watch on their wrist where if the ball goes over the line, that should beep on the wrist as far as I know. But yeah, I mean, again, I think the whole Aberdeen appeal thing, at the time I thought it was a red card, but I get why Aberdeen appealed it. They thought it was the wrong decision, and that's fine. But I think it actually cost them a bit. I think if you appeal it, that's why Hearts didn't appeal the ending off the Celtic, because they thought, well, it won't get overturned, and probably we'll make another game on the back of that. So it's not another frivolous decision. So that's why we're going to appeal that, but it's going to be better. VAR's going to be used much better than it has been used. And yeah, Paul raises a good point. It took a while for VAR in England to get sorted out. I still think there are difficulties with it at times, but they are using it better now. The referees have got more understanding of it, but Scottish referees, for me, I actually think the standards got worse since VAR came in, which I didn't think was possible, but it genuinely has. Paul Donaldson, what do you think of the Grealish handball VAR decision in the FA Cup final? For me, that wasn't a... Now, they'll go by the letter of the law, but for me, what's he meant to do? You know, his hand, yes, it's up, but he has to jump. And it's not deliberate. The ball against his hand from basically close range, there's nothing Grealish can do. And I'm not a massive fan of Jack Grealish. I think he's a pain. He's a good player, but I think he's a pain. But for me, that's not a handball. And this is why I think the handball rule needs to be deliberate. We need to go back to that deliberate handball, because for me, that's not deliberate. And I've seen that too many times this season in Scotland, where a handball's been given where it's not deliberate. You can tell what's deliberate and what's not. That, for me, today was not deliberate. So for me, that wasn't a penalty. But Man City won the cup anyway, as you'd expect. And they will probably win the treble, just like Celtic have done today. But against City are just a force. But what I will say, I know this is a Scottish, but we'll say Man City, though, they have 115 charges relating to FFP. I'll be genuinely astonished if they don't get some kind of punishment on that. If it was one or two, maybe not, but 115 charges, there's clearly something not right there. Now, I don't know if they'll get stripped of titles, probably not. Fining them is no point, because they're owned by a rich billionaire. No point in fining them. Something needs to be done if they're found guilty. 115 charges is a lot of charges. Clearly something's not right there. But again, it could take a few years before there's actually anything happens. But I think in terms of this season in Scotland, it's interesting. And again, tomorrow we will be live on air between 7 and 8 as we look back. And Michael's hosting tomorrow, thankfully, because my throat's going really dry here. It's a long hour when you're just talking. See, when you've got music to play background, it makes it a lot better. I mean, I could do a sing-song, but I'm not drunk enough. But, I mean, tomorrow you have the playoff semi-final, playoff final second leg between Ross County and Partick Thistle. Now, I thought that Partick were very good on Thursday. The sending off changes the game. You know, there's no doubt it changes the game. I felt a bit sorry for the laddie, Don Smith, to get sent off. I don't think it was deliberate. He goes in to try and win the ball and he just gets caught. Fitzpatrick does a really good job there because he is going through on goal. But after Partick was some really good football, and we did for anyone that watched, we did a show on after the game, talking about the game, and hey, that if you're a Ross County fan, if you're Malky Mackay, the one positive you can take is you're going back to Dingwall only 2-0 down, because generally Partick could have had the game out. Should have won that game before them, especially in the second half. And a couple of really good. Ross County did well. And Brian Graham scored 21 goals this season. He's an ex-Ross County player as well. So he'll be going back up there looking to try and cause more problems. And I think he even lost the Fitzpatrick, I thought was great as well. So I genuinely believe that. Now I think, and I said this to Michael as well, the first goal is crucial tomorrow. If Ross County get it and get it early, I wonder how Partick will react to that. Partick have been great recently. They've come at the right time in the playoffs, especially. They've been brilliant. They've been blowing teams away, scoring goals away from home as well. But tomorrow's going to be difficult because they're only 2-0. And I think if you're Chris Doolan, and I think he actually did say this after the game, they should have been going well for a lead. They were against 10 men for a lot of that game, and they couldn't add to their tally despite dominating the game. They had a shot off the bar in the last minute. But it should be a great atmosphere tomorrow. Partick having a great crowd, County will have a really decent crowd as well. But that first goal is so important tomorrow. If Partick were to score it, I think the game's done, because I don't see... You're looking potentially for me for Ross County to score at least 4, because I actually think Partick will score. So you're looking at Ross County even to score at least 4 or 5 to get back in this game. I don't know if they're going to do that. They don't have Eamon Brophy. I will be genuinely shocked if they don't play Simon Murray tomorrow, because he's not really had a lot of a look in, but they have to do something. They're 2-0 down. They've got to score goals. So I think they'll play him and Jordan White up front with Jan Dan down behind. For Partick, I don't think they'll make any changes. I think they'll play exactly the same team that beat them on Thursday night. And it could be a really entertaining game, because Ross County have got to go for it. And I don't think Partick will change how they play. They will set out, I'd imagine, that Chris Doolan, because again, I said this on Thursday as well, it's only half time in tying it. It's very difficult, because what do you do if you're Chris Doolan? You know that 0-0 gets you through, but you don't want to do that. You can't sit on a 0-0 draw and hope that you get through. So I don't think they'll change how they play. I generally think they'll go there and have a go. It'll be very interesting to see what they do, but I think it could be a really good game. But I am expecting, if I'm being honest, Partick to be in the Premier League next season. And there will be a welcome addition. You will have Dundee from the Championship, and you will have Partick from the Championship promoted. And again, like I've said numerous times, I've said this to Michael as well, for me, there isn't a massive gap between the bottom of the Premiership and the top of the Championship. So I think Dundee and Partick could come up and hold their own in this league. I don't think they'll go straight back down. I think they could compete quite easily with the likes of St Johnstone, Motherwell, St Mirren, for example, who did finish in the top 6. But I think they could do well. But do you know what? We've got 3 minutes to go. Thank you to Paul, especially for your comments tonight, mate. It's much appreciated. And to anyone that's watched as well, I'm glad this wasn't a 2-hour show, because my voice is starting to go. But thank you to everyone that's watched again. Again, I say this a lot, but it is much appreciated. Everyone that watches, everyone that comments on the show. We've got 3 minutes to go, and it is all about Celtic tonight. They have won their 8th treble, historic 8th treble. But as I said, the talk will now turn to Postecoglou. Will he leave Celtic? I'm going to say now that I think if Tottenham come in for him this week, he'll find it very hard to turn that down. I can see why he'd want to stay at Celtic. But I just have a feeling that if they do come calling, I just think he's taken Celtic as far as he can go. He's been using 2021. He's won all the trophies he's going to get. As I say, the only thing that might keep him at Celtic is he might want to do better in the Champions League, and Tottenham aren't in the Champions League, so that might be the only reason he stays. But the money that he could get for going to the Premier League, the teams he's playing against, does Postecoglou want to test himself in the Premiership, or do they want to stick in the Scottish League and play against Hearts, Hibs, Rangers, St Mirren? I just think, honestly, if the lure of the Premiership comes in, it's going to be very hard to turn that down. There's very few folk would do that. So I'm going to stick my neck out now and say, I'm going to ask myself the own question here, because I've nobody else to ask. But I think Ange Postecoglou will go to Tottenham. That's my prediction for this summer. I think Postecoglou will be at Spurs. I might be wrong, because my prediction is normally dreadful. But I just think if the lure of the Premiership comes along, he might go. But that's the end of the show. Celtic obviously won the treble. They beat Inverness by 3-1 for anyone that didn't know. I'm sure you have. We are back on tomorrow, myself and Michael, covering Ross County against Partick Thistle in the second leg. As I say, we've got special shows coming up next week, Friday. Tune in at 5 till 6. Maureen McGonigal will be hosting a special women's sport special. The week after that, we've got a mental health programme. I've got coming up as well. We meet in a little hour on VAR. So, my name's Graham D. Thank you for joining me tonight. Again, Paul, thank you for your comments tonight. Much appreciated. We shall see you tomorrow at 7 o'clock as we cover Ross County against Partick Thistle. Bye-bye.